Alright guys, so this is the video lecture for writing quadratics. In case you missed Thursday or you just need to see the lesson again, um, that's what we're going to be doing today. So this is a new lesson. If you weren't here today, make sure you put that in your table of contents and it's in the journal header. Okay? And so we're going to start with writing. We talked about with we're going to start with the vertex form of a quadratic equation. We talked about standard form, and that looks like y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Well, the vertex form, it looks like this: y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. And the h, k, is the vertex of the quadratic equation. That's why this is called the vertex form. You use the vertex coordinates to write this equation. And the axis of symmetry is just x equals h. Okay, so let's do a couple of examples here. So we look at number one, well, my axis of symmetry is actually x equals -4, and that's because that's a plus 4 in my equation. So this is plus 4, but my vertex form says I'm subtracting, and so when I subtract a negative, it has to be a when I subtract a negative, it becomes a plus, right? So my axis of symmetry has to be x equals -4. All right. So when you're looking at x equals h, you just kind of have to remember change your sign. All right. And so my vertex, of course, then is -4 minus 2. Okay. All right. And so we can do that with number 2. We have x equals 3 as our axis of symmetry because that's -3, which means that we did subtract a positive number. So that's x equals 3. All right. And then my vertex here is going to be 3, 0 because I am not adding anything to the to the equation. Right. Number 3. We look here, the axis of symmetry is going to be x equal. This is -5, so I'm going to change that sign. It's going to be +5. All right, and then the vertex. Well, we know that the vertex lies on the axis of symmetry, so it's 5, and my y value is -4. So I don't change that sign. All right. Now, if we look here, I got -2x squared plus 3. Well, I'm not adding anything inside the parentheses with x, so my axis of symmetry is just simply x equals 0. Okay? And so the vertex then is going to be 0 plus, or 0, 3, because I am adding 3 to the outside there. All right. So let's do some graphing from the vertex form, okay? And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because we kind of did this yesterday, and a lot of it is just that we're going to still use our calculators, okay? And so the axis of symmetry here, just kind of what we did, is going to be x. Well, what's being added to the inside the parentheses? It's adding 2. I'm going to change the sign of 2, and I'm going to get -2. Okay, and so I'm going to use that as my middle coordinate because that's my vertex. And so then I can just plug this into my calculator, and I'm going to look up the values for -2, and it's going to be -2, 7. So that's my vertex. I'm going to write that there. Okay. And then I'm going to find coordinates 2 spots before -2 and 2 spots after. So -1, 0. All right, and then I can just use my calculator for that. The y value for -3 or -1 is 6. Okay, and the y value for -4 and 0 is 3. Okay, and then I can just plot that. First thing I got to do, let's find -2, 7, which is over here, and then almost all the way up. There's my first point, and then to the left and right, it's 1 down, and then over it's 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. There's 0, 3, and then right over there to make the symmetry. Okay, and so I can kind of graph this like that. All right, and so my domain, as always, is all real numbers, and that's just a sign for all real numbers. And I gotta look here. Do I have a min or max? Well, obviously I have a maximum. It doesn't go higher than y7, so y is less than or equal to 7. Okay, so transformations. This is something I know you guys love. And I kind of touched on it a little bit yesterday. The most simplistic quadratic equation is y equals x squared. And that's known as the parent function. So you can think Big Daddy of all quadratics. All right, and because everything else is just a transformation of y equals x squared. And a transformation, of course, is a change to the size or position. Well, let me actually spell position right. Position of a figure. Okay, and so here's kind of the rules of the quadratic equation. All right, so here's the rules for transformations. Okay, and if you look here, we're going to use the vertex form. All right, so if h is a horizontal shift, right? So if it's inside the parentheses, it's always going to be horizontal. All right, and if it's plus, it's going to actually shift left. If we're subtracting a number, it shifts right. And if we're adding outside the parentheses k, that's a vertical shift. And if it's plus, this is normal, it's going to shift up. If it's subtracting, it's going to shift down. Okay? Now, if we're multiplying something outside the parentheses, the function is, if we're multiplying something negative, the function is flipped or reflected across the x-axis. Okay? Now, if what we're multiplying outside the parentheses, is greater than 1, it's a vertical stretch. All right, and if it's less than 1, if it's a fraction, it's a vertical compression. And then we need to add our own rule here. So if we're multiplying inside, this is horizontal stretch, compression. Let me write that around. All right, so it's a horizontal compression. if C is greater than 1, else it's a horizontal stretch. So in other words, it's the opposite of the vertical stretch and compression. Okay? Okay, so let's try to apply that. Well, they're going to tell me that x plus 1, or sorry, my vertex form is y equals x plus 1 squared minus 6. Okay? Well, first, I just noticed they've already graphed the parent function, the y equals x squared right here. And so I'm going to use my calculator, plug that in, and I'm going to figure out my vertex, which is x equals negative 1, because inside the parentheses it's plus 1, change the sign. So x is negative 1, and when x is negative 1, y is negative 6. Okay, and then I'm just simply finding the numbers around it. So negative 2, negative 3, 0, 1. Okay, and go back. So when x is negative 2 or 0, y is negative 5. When x is negative 3 or 1, y is negative 2. Okay, and then I can graph this. So negative 1, negative 6 is right here. Negative 2, negative 5 is right there. Okay, and then negative 2, 1, negative 2 is here. Negative 3, negative 2 is right here. Alright, and so I just kind of graph. And one of the easiest ways to kind of look what happened to the vertex. Well, it went down 6 units and left 1 unit. And so you can kind of see that was part of our rules, right? If you're adding 1 inside the parentheses, you're actually shifting left. If you're subtracting outside the parentheses, you're actually moving the unit down. Okay? Let's try another one. Well, first thing I had to do is find my vertex, my axis of symmetry. X equals, look inside the parentheses, it's negative 4, so it's going to be positive 4. Okay, put that in your calculator. And when x is 4, y is 1. And then I'm going to find the numbers around it. So when x is 3 or 5, y is 0. When x is 2 or 6, y is negative 3. And we graph. So 4, 1. So here's, oh, that's negative 1. That's my bad. So here's 4, 1. Then the rest are on the x-axis. And here's 2, negative 3. Here's 6, negative 3. Draw it. So, well, let's describe what happened. Well, 1, it flipped over x-axis. It went to the right 4 units, up 1 unit. right? And you can see that from the vertex form. Here's the negative outside the parentheses, so it flips over the x-axis. Here's -4, which means it went right 4, and then outside the parentheses +1, so that means it goes up 1 unit. Okay? So let's try a few of these, and then that's where we're going to leave off. Okay, so I'm going to write in the vertex form. Okay, and remember the parent function is y equals x squared, so that's our basic unit. So if I translated 2 units to the right, that means I'm inside the parentheses. And I'm going to the right, so it's kind of the opposite of what you think. So it's x minus 2 squared. Okay? Then number 15, we translated 3 units left and 4 units down. Well, again, anything that's horizontal, it's inside the parentheses. So x, okay, so we're moving left, which means we do kind of the opposite. We add 3 inside. All right, and then we go down 4 units, which means we subtract 4 units. All right, number 17. We reflected over the axis. That means I'm going to have a negative in front of the parentheses, and then it's translated 3 units down. Well, since I'm not moving it horizontally, I'm just going to have negative x squared, okay, and then minus 3 because I'm going down 3 units. So we're vertically compressed by a factor of 1/3. All right, so if I'm compressed vertically, I'm going to have y equals 1/3 x squared and then plus 8. Okay. All right, guys, I hope that helps you out. If you have any more questions, you can always come see me in tutorials. I'll see you later.